What's going on, lads and lasses? Welcome back to 100% Mags. So if you could please hit a like on the video and subscribe, and of course you are watching 100% Mags, and this is of course my reaction to the transfer deadline day. Of course it closed shut on the 31st. I'm now recording this of course on the 3rd of September, so I am a little bit late at the party, but all the same I'm going to run you through my thoughts on how this transfer window played out for Newcastle, and what my thoughts are on it, because it wasn't a great transfer window. Yes, we brought in the likes of Joe Willock for 25 million, but they were talking before we actually signed Joe Willock that we didn't have that much money in this transfer window. Now for me that is absolutely laughable, considering that we finished in a 12th place finish last season. Of course we got the TV money for this season, and we've have made quite a good profit last season off of our performance in the league, and we were quite favourable and quite lucky in a way, to come away with that 12th place finish, because it was all thanks to the likes of, Joe Willock, Maxi, who seemed to get on his game at the end, because he was out for quite a while with COVID. Callum Wilson got a little bit of a chance in there as well to get a bit performance going, because he was out with COVID. We did get, like I say, struck by COVID last season quite a bit, and it was quite a surprise to be able to finish in 12th place, especially under Steve Bruce as well, who, as we now know, like 3 seasons in now, or to the regime of Steve Bruce being at the club as the Newcastle United head coach, and to go from a man like Rafa Benitez to somebody like Steve Bruce is a massive drop in expectations, because that just shows what Mike Ashley was thinking. He was trying to offload the club fast to PIF, and it hasn't worked out, because the Premier League and the so-called Six and everybody else involved have stuck their noses in. The Premier League, at the end of the day, do have a right to be involved in it, because they are the Premier League at the end of the day. But the other parties, like the so-called Six, BN Sports, and so many others that we've heard over this whole takeover saga, do not deserve to be involved in it, do not even deserve to have an ounce of knowledge of what is going on with our takeover, because it is a private matter and should remain a private matter, and that is something that the Premier League has said. It should be, it's a private matter. Where us fans aren't allowed to hear about it. So how come, John W. Henry at Liverpool is, or the Glazers at Man United, or Chelsea's owners are allowed to, Arsenal's, Tottenham's, how come a guy over in Qatar is able to hear about what's going on in our takeover? How's he allowed to hear the inside information when us Newcastle United fans aren't allowed to hear about this inside information? This is what we've been talking about for ages, about the corruption. And, this transfer window hasn't helped neither. Yes, we signed, like I say, Joe Willock in for 25 million. But then, we see Newcastle going in for players like Kamara, also seen Hamza Chaudhry. There was also talk, on transfer deadline day, that we were offered the likes of Hector Bellerin from Arsenal. Also, Turnzaby of Man United got offered during this transfer window. None of them ended up coming. And the Hamza Chaudhry one went on for quite a while as well. And all us Newcastle United fans wanted at the end of the day was somebody to come in at centre back, with a bit of pace to help out at the back. We wanted somebody in the midfield who could set up the ball for the likes of Callum Wilson, which we did get Joe Willock in through the door for that. But we could have also done with another player, like a playmaker, to be able to spray the ball around the pitch. We do have John Joe Shelby, but he's not at that level, because you want to have a player who can do it on a consistent basis every single week. You want that kind of player who can go out there, and do that every week. Ping the ball to this player, ping the ball to that player. And that's something you see with Man City, with Kevin De Bruyne. He does it every single week for Manchester City. And, under Rafa Benitez, we did see John Joe Shelby doing that. But now under Steve Bruce, we're not seeing John Joe Shelby doing it. And the reason behind it is, the fact that Steve Bruce is very lenient towards the players. He's not strict like Rafa Benitez was. He doesn't pressure the players, and push them to their absolute limit. He's just happy, for the players to play the way they're playing. And that's not good enough. That's not what us are about. That's not what Newcastle United's about. Newcastle United has always been about being the best out with what we can do, putting out the best performances weekly. That is something that Newcastle United has always prided itself on, especially during the period, when Kevin Keegan was here and Bobby Robson was here. You wouldn't have seen Kevin Keegan or Bobby Robson accepting, second best performances. That's not good enough. Fans are paying money at the end of the day. Fans are going to them games. Fans are travelling all the way up and down the country to away games. You don't want to go all the way down to the south to go watch Newcastle versus Southampton and Southampton come away with a win. That's not what we want to see. We want to see performance, from the players, and that's something we're not getting to see under Steve Bruce. And of course, the corruption as well side of things. If you want to say that, personally, I do believe there is corruption in the Premier League, and it's quite obvious that there is. There will be quite a few people, as always, like I do say, in the comments section saying you're talking absolute nonsense. There's no conspiracy against your club. You're deluded. And if you want to have that opinion and take that stance on it, at the end of the day, you can. But me personally, in my feelings, I feel there is corruption in the Premier League. And, there is obviously corruption there. You can see it because, the likes of Burnley were allowed to have a takeover immediately whilst Newcastle's was being delayed. The reason Burnley got theirs is because the owners that were coming in were paying with money from the club to buy the club. And, now we're seeing as well the likes of Arsenal being linked with a purchase from the Qataris who were wanting to buy Arsenal. If that deal goes through and Arsenal do get bought by the Qataris, then you've got to be seeing then that the corruption, is right there for everybody to see. It's there for everybody to see right now. But if Arsenal do get that takeover put through by the Qataris, and Newcastle are still waiting, us Newcastle United fans are still waiting for our takeover after that point, then that proves to me the absolute corruption that is going on in the Premier League, going on in English football. We've seen it in the Italian league, the likes of Juventus, AC Milan, they all got punished for bribing referees, match fixing, and I'm sure eventually, over time we will see the Premier League be found out for a similar thing because you can just see it, you don't have to know football to see the corruption. You can see it in front of your eyes. 3 Premier League games now we've played this season, and all 3 of them have had a dodgy penalty decision done in them by the officials on the game. And of course, we also had a not so great League Cup game as well against Burnley, and to be honest, that one you can put down to the fact, that Burnley weren't great, Newcastle weren't great neither, but it's just another one of them things, when it's going bad against you, it's going to go bad against you everywhere. And that is, what we've seen. Of course, we were doing bad in the league. We went in the League Cup and we did bad there. And, it's just getting a bit too much now. Us Newcastle United fans need to see what is going to happen with this takeover. Eventually, we need to see the outcome of it, be it, that the takeover gets put through and we get to have new owners. To be honest, everybody talks about wanting the Saudis in PIF in Newcastle United. That would be absolutely fantastic to have that kind of takeover, to have the absolute maximum amount of money, unlimited money, to be able to just go out there, spend, and win cup. And that would be absolutely amazing, and every football fan dreams of that. But for me, I would be happy with, something in the similar mold to a Leicester City, where the owner actually cares for the club, and they're willing to put in, 100 million a season of their own money for the first few seasons, to show that they actually care for the club, that they care what they're involved in. And, that would do for me, to be honest. That would be the absolute minimum I would take at the club, because at this moment in time, anybody who is willing to do something like that is better than Mike Ashley, because we've seen it with this transfer window just gone. He was penny pinching again. We've saved about 200k in weekly wages because of the players that we got off our books. And, he had the chance to bring in the likes of Hamza Chaudhry. He didn't. He had the likes of Hector Bellerin being offered to it. He would have been an absolutely amazing player to have. Boubacar Kamara as well. He would have been a great player to have. And we got the option there to be able to get them. And Mike Ashley didn't want to get them. And for me, that's not good. That means, that he's not willing to invest money to, safeguard his asset of this club. Because, let's face it, Newcastle United is clearly the biggest asset in Mike Ashley's portfolio of businesses that he owns. If you want, of course, to put down a football club as a business, Newcastle United would be, of course, his crown jewel of his portfolio. He should know that himself if he's a good businessman, which, you've got to question if he is a good businessman or not after the whole 14, 15 years that we've been under his ownership now, because he hasn't done anything to prove to us Newcastle United fans that he is a good businessman and knows what he is doing, because he's made bad decision after bad decision. And even when Rafa Benitez came in, it wasn't his decision. At the end of the day, Rafa Benitez came to Newcastle United, offered his services, and, we would have probably ended up with the likes of somebody like Sam Allardyce or even Joe Flippin Kinnear again, which has been rumoured quite a bit before Steve Bruce even got signed, that, he was looking at maybe a Joe Kinnear. He did look at Sam Allardyce as well. Allardyce turned it down, and if Allardyce is turning down the Newcastle United job with Mike Ashley as owner, for a fact, how bad Mike Ashley is as an owner of Newcastle United. If somebody like Sam Allardyce doesn't want to even do his hands near him for a second time. But let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. The transfer window hasn't worked out the way, it should have. And of course, we're seeing the likes of Matty Longstaff as well going up to Aberdeen on loan. For me, he should have been kept at the club. He should have been given first team chances. Hopefully it is only a loan and he doesn't end up moving away from the club on a permanent deal, because that would be an absolute waste. And of course, to talk about players moving away from the club as well, we also lost an absolutely amazing youngster in Bobby Clark, Lee Clark's son, to Liverpool in this transfer window as well, which, you know, is really frustrating, really annoying that, you know, somebody like Liverpool has been able to scoop away such a young talent. He showed so much promise in Newcastle, he has as well, and he's probably going to be, you know, a future England international. But he's went off to Liverpool now, and, you know, hopefully for Bobby Clark's sake, you know, it doesn't end up like Andy Carroll in misery and him ending up at a different club. But, you know, that's all I've got to say on that transfer window. It was an absolute shambles. We should have been bringing somebody in with a little bit of pace at the centre-back role. We should have tried to show up all of the weaknesses in the team where we could. Maybe get somebody in there that could partner up with Callum Wilson to get some extra goals in the team as well. But we didn't do any of it, and it's been another lackluster transfer window. Anyway, let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, remember to like, share, subscribe to 100% Mags, and I'll see you all next time. However, lads.